Before you give up on a man, pause and take a deep breath. Ask yourself why you are ready to let go. Life is full of moments where patience is tested, where love is challenged, where your heart feels heavy and your mind whispers to walk away. But the truth is, strength is not in letting go at the first sign of struggle. Strength is in seeing beyond the surface and understanding the layers beneath. A man, just like any human being, is not perfect. He carries fears you cannot see, battles you cannot understand, and scars that shape the way he loves. Sometimes what looks like indifference is actually confusion. What seems like distance is often a man wrestling with his own insecurities. When you feel unheard, it does not always mean you are not valued. Listen carefully, not just to the words he says, but to the silence that speaks between them. Remember that love is not always easy. It is messy, complicated, and sometimes inconvenient. But the men who are worth holding on to are the ones who fight quietly, stumble repeatedly, and yet return because their heart refuses to leave. Before giving up, remind yourself why you started caring in the first place. The love that touched you deeply is still inside him. It may be buried, it may be hidden, but it is not gone. Before you give up on a man, it is crucial to understand his struggles before judging his actions. Often, we see only what is visible, what is easy to measure, and we forget that every person carries battles that are unseen. A man may seem distant, distracted, or indifferent, but behind that exterior lies a story you cannot fully grasp unless you pause, observe, and empathize. Life does not hand out challenges in equal measure, and sometimes the very strength we admire in a man comes from the battles he fights silently. To give up without understanding is to walk away from a part of him that is still learning, still growing, still fighting to become the person he could be. Think about the pressures that weigh on a man every single day. There are responsibilities that demand attention, obligations that pull him in multiple directions, and expectations from the world that he must meet, often without complaint. The weight of providing, protecting, and proving oneself can create walls that are misunderstood as emotional distance. What seems like stubbornness may be fatigue, what seems like carelessness may be overwhelm, and what seems like disinterest may be a sign of his mind juggling far too many burdens to express his love the way you want. Understanding begins with awareness, a willingness to look beyond the surface and recognize that his actions are shaped not only by his heart, but by the world he navigates every day. Empathy is the bridge that connects your heart to his. When you take the time to imagine what he endures, you cultivate patience. When you attempt to see the world through his eyes, you stop measuring love solely by the way it is expressed and start appreciating the effort hidden beneath small gestures. A man may struggle to articulate his feelings because he has been taught that vulnerability is weakness, that showing uncertainty is failure, and that he must always be strong. Understanding his struggles means honoring the battles he cannot share, supporting him in ways that words cannot capture, and valuing his love even when it is imperfect. Before you decide to walk away, reflect on the moments when he tried, even if he fell short. Every human being makes mistakes, but the mistakes do not erase the effort, the intention, or the love that exists quietly beneath. Understanding does not mean tolerating harm or accepting disrespect. It means recognizing the difference between character flaws and the weight of circumstance. It means acknowledging that a man can be flawed and still worthy of your belief. Before you give up, ask yourself if your desire to leave is based on impatience or on a failure to see the full picture of his journey. The greatest relationships are built on seeing each other fully, including the struggles that are not shared aloud. A man who feels understood, who knows his struggles are acknowledged rather than dismissed, is more likely to open up, to grow, and to love more deeply. When you approach him with curiosity rather than judgment, you give him the space to reveal his true self. Understanding is not a passive act. It is an active choice to invest your heart in someone who is still learning to navigate his own. It requires humility, patience, and a belief in the potential for growth. Often, what you perceive as distance is actually a call for support. What you see as hesitation may be fear of failure. A man may stumble not because he does not care, but because he is trying to reconcile his dreams, his responsibilities, and the love he wants to give. Understanding his struggles allows you to respond with compassion rather than frustration, with encouragement rather than resentment. It shifts the focus from what is missing to what is possible. You begin to see not only his flaws but also his determination, his resilience, and the depth of his heart. Before giving up, remember that love is rarely about perfection. It is about seeing the person behind the mistakes, behind the silence, behind the walls. It is about believing that the man you care for is more than the sum of his visible failures. To understand his struggles is to give him a chance to rise, to give him room to grow, and to give yourself the opportunity to witness the love that exists quietly, waiting to be recognized. Sometimes, staying and believing is the only way to discover the strength that was always there. Understanding his struggles does not demand endless sacrifice, but it does call for patience, empathy, and a willingness to look beyond what is easy to see. It is the foundation of true love, the kind that endures through challenges and transforms both hearts. Before you give up on a man, take the time to understand the battles he fights, and you may discover that what you thought was a reason to leave is actually a reason to stay. Patience reveals what haste often misses. In the journey of love, it is easy to feel frustrated, to measure a man's worth by the speed at which he expresses himself, or to judge a relationship by the immediacy of visible progress. But love, real love, does not follow a schedule. It does not answer to timelines or expectations. Before you give up on a man, understand that rushing to conclusions can blind you to the deeper truths of who he is and what he is capable of. Patience is not just waiting. It is observing, understanding, and trusting in the process of growth that cannot be forced or hurried. There is a rhythm to a man's heart, a pace to his emotions that cannot be hurried. Sometimes what appears as hesitation is actually a careful consideration, a thoughtful reflection on how he wants to love, how he wants to show up, and how he wants to protect what matters. When we impose our impatience, we risk missing the beauty of his intentions. A man may need time to overcome his fears, to release past wounds, or to step fully into the kind of love that deserves your trust. Patience allows you to witness his transformation, to see him not as he is in a fleeting moment of doubt, but as he is becoming over time. Haste creates pressure, and pressure often leads to mistakes or miscommunication. When you push for answers, for commitments, for immediate demonstrations of love, you may force a reaction rather than allowing a genuine expression of the heart. Patience, on the other hand, creates space. It allows a man to feel safe, to breathe, and to act from sincerity rather than obligation. Waiting with patience is an active act of faith. It is a belief that what is meant to flourish will do so when given the proper time, and that rushing will only obscure the potential that is quietly growing within him. Think about the moments when a man hesitates, when he seems distant, or when he does not meet your expectations immediately. These are often the moments when patience is most needed. Instead of assuming the worst, pause and consider the context of his life, the weight of his responsibilities, and the battles that may not be visible. When you approach these moments with calm observation, rather than frustration, you see layers that haste would never reveal. You begin to understand the intentions behind his actions, the depth of his feelings, and the courage it takes for him to navigate the complexities of life while loving you. Patience also allows love to deepen naturally. When you give a man time, you give him the chance to prove himself consistently, not in isolated moments of grand gestures. True commitment is revealed over time, in small acts of care, in steady support, and in the quiet moments where words are insufficient but actions speak volumes. Rushing may make you miss these subtle, yet profound demonstrations of love. By waiting patiently, you witness the full spectrum of who he is, the strength of his character, and the sincerity of his heart. Furthermore, patience is a reflection of your own emotional maturity. It demonstrates that you can love without needing constant reassurance, that you can hold space for someone without trying to control their journey, and that you recognize the difference between immediate gratification and lasting connection. In practicing patience, you cultivate an inner strength that allows you to engage with love thoughtfully rather than reactively. You learn to trust not only him, but also yourself and the process of love itself. It is important to remember that patience does not mean tolerating neglect or disrespect. It does not mean lowering your standards or accepting less than you deserve. Patience is a deliberate choice to observe, to wait, and to allow growth while maintaining your boundaries. It is about understanding that love evolves in its own time, and that the man who is willing to fight, to grow, and to rise will do so if given the room to do it. The moments that seem uncertain now may become the foundation for a love that is unwavering and enduring. Before you give up on a man, remind yourself that time is often the greatest revealer of truth. Hasty decisions can end something prematurely, while patience allows the beauty of growth, commitment, and genuine love to emerge. It shows you what words alone cannot, what gestures alone cannot, and what fleeting impressions cannot. When you choose patience, you choose to see beyond the immediate, to trust the process, and to honor the depth of what is possible. Patience reveals not only who he truly is, but also who you are when you love without rush, when you wait without resentment, and when you believe in the unfolding of a journey that cannot be forced. Before you give up, give time a chance, and you may discover that what you thought was missing was only waiting to be revealed in its perfect season. Silence can speak louder than words, and learning to listen to it is one of the most powerful skills in love. Before you give up on a man, consider that what you do not hear may matter more than what you do. Many times, a man does not communicate the way you expect. He may not speak often of his feelings, he may not declare his love in grand statements, and he may not respond immediately to every concern. This does not always mean he does not care. Silence often carries meaning that is subtle, layered, and profound. Understanding the language of his quiet moments is essential to recognizing the depth of his heart and the sincerity of his intentions. A man's silence can be a shield, a protective mechanism formed over years of experience, fear, or vulnerability. He may be struggling with emotions he does not know how to express, or he may be cautious because he fears being misunderstood. What appears as distance could be a man gathering his thoughts, reflecting on his life, or wrestling with challenges you cannot see. If you react to silence with frustration or impatience, you risk misreading his intentions and walking away from something that is genuine. Listening to what is unsaid requires patience, empathy, and a willingness to see beyond the surface. Silence is often a reflection of thoughtfulness. Many men process emotions internally before sharing them. A quiet moment may indicate that he is considering the best way to love you, protect you, or communicate his feelings. Rushing to fill the silence with assumptions or demands can disrupt this process. Before giving up, allow yourself to observe his actions alongside his words. Often, what he does quietly, small acts of care, consistent support, thoughtfulness in daily life, reveals more about his love than words ever could. Actions, paired with attentive observation, become the true language of his heart. Understanding silence also means recognizing the difference between absence and intention. A man who is quiet is not necessarily distant. He may be processing, planning, or building himself up so he can give more fully to you. When you give space for his quiet moments, you allow him the freedom to grow and express himself in a way that aligns with his true character. Many relationships falter not because of lack of love, but because one partner misunderstands silence as indifference. Before giving up, consider that silence may be the precursor to the deepest and most meaningful expressions of love you will ever receive. Listening to silence requires more than hearing. It requires presence. Pay attention to his patterns, his gestures, and the subtleties in his behavior. Notice the way he looks at you, the effort he makes in small ways, the consistency behind his words. These nuances often carry more weight than declarations made in haste or moments of emotion. Silence is not emptiness. It is a space where true intentions are often revealed if you are willing to notice. Cultivating this awareness allows you to appreciate the complexity of his heart without jumping to conclusions or making assumptions based solely on what is missing in speech. Silence can also be an invitation to trust. When a man does not immediately express his feelings, it challenges you to see beyond your need for reassurance and to believe in the sincerity of his intentions. Trusting him during these moments is not passive. It is an active choice to hold space for the person he is becoming and the love he is capable of giving. Many men who love deeply do so quietly, with steadfast commitment that is not always loud or dramatic, but unwavering in its consistency. Recognizing this requires patience and a willingness to let love unfold on its own timeline. Before giving up, remember that silence is often where vulnerability hides. A man may be afraid to show weakness, afraid to express uncertainty, or unsure of how his emotions will be received. By interpreting silence with empathy rather than suspicion, you create an environment where he can gradually open up, revealing his heart in ways that words alone could never convey. When you allow him this space, you give love the chance to grow deeper, steadier, and more authentic. Silence is not absence, and it is not a sign of indifference. It is a language of its own, rich with meaning, intention, and potential. Before you give up on a man, learn to hear what is not being said. Notice the quiet gestures, the thoughtful pauses, and the consistent actions that speak of his care and commitment. In the stillness, you often find the truth of his heart, and in that truth, the reason to stay becomes clear. Growth takes time, and love deserves the space to evolve. Before you give up on a man, remember that no person arrives fully formed. Just as a tree does not bear fruit the moment it is planted, a man cannot reveal the fullness of his heart instantly. Life shapes him slowly through experiences, mistakes, victories, and losses. When you demand immediate perfection, you overlook the journey that has brought him to this point and the potential that still lies ahead. Understanding this is essential because love is not merely about what exists today. It is about what can grow tomorrow when nurtured with patience and care. A man's growth is often invisible. The struggles he faces, the lessons he learns, and the self-awareness he develops are rarely displayed openly. He may stumble, falter, or retreat at times, but these moments are not signs of weakness. They are signs of evolution. Each challenge he navigates adds layers to his character, teaching him empathy, responsibility, and the depth of his emotions. Before giving up, consider that the man you see now is only part of who he is becoming. By giving him space to grow, you allow love to flourish alongside him, creating a foundation that is stronger, deeper, and more enduring than fleeting passion. Growth also requires mistakes. A man may make choices that disappoint you, fail to meet your expectations, or struggle to express himself in ways you understand. It is natural to feel frustrated in these moments, but impatience can destroy what could have been. Love is about seeing beyond the mistakes to the lessons they carry and the effort to improve. When you recognize that his imperfections are part of the growth process, you allow room for transformation rather than judgment. Supporting him through this evolution does not mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean acknowledging that real change takes time and consistent effort. Space is equally important for growth. Love cannot thrive under pressure or in the shadow of constant expectation. A man who is allowed room to think, reflect, and evolve is more likely to become the partner you envision. Sometimes distance or quiet moments are not signs of disinterest. They are opportunities for self-discovery. When you provide this space without withdrawing your support or care, you empower him to explore his own strength, understand his values, and develop the clarity to love fully. A relationship that allows growth is one where both hearts expand, not one that shrinks under the weight of impatience. Consider also that growth is not linear. A man may advance in some areas while struggling in others. There will be days when he seems stronger, more confident, more attentive, and days when he retreats, doubts himself, or fails to communicate effectively. This inconsistency is part of being human. True love recognizes the journey, celebrates progress, and supports resilience rather than demanding perfection at every turn. Before giving up, reflect on the progress made, however small, and the potential that is steadily unfolding. Growth in love is reciprocal. As you give him the time and space to develop, you also cultivate patience, understanding, and empathy within yourself. You learn to value steady progress over instant gratification and to appreciate the quiet, incremental changes that reveal his heart more honestly than dramatic gestures ever could. Your willingness to stay through the process strengthens the bond, creating a foundation built on mutual respect, trust, and shared evolution. Love that grows naturally is resilient. It withstands challenges because it is rooted in understanding rather than convenience. Remember that the most meaningful relationships are rarely instant. They are forged over time, through trials and triumphs, through patience and effort, through moments of doubt and moments of clarity. A man who is given the chance to grow will often reveal a depth of character, commitment, and love that could not have been rushed. By allowing space for growth, you honor not only his journey, but also the potential of your love together. Before you give up on a man, take a step back and see the bigger picture. Love is a living, evolving force. Growth cannot be forced, and hearts cannot be hurried. By giving him the time to develop, the space to learn, and the freedom to become the man he is capable of being, you create the conditions for a love that is enduring, transformative, and deeply rewarding. Remember why your heart believed in him in the first place. Before you give up on a man, take a moment to reflect on the reasons you were drawn to him, the qualities that captured your attention, and the moments that made your heart feel alive. In the rush of disappointment, frustration, or misunderstanding, it is easy to forget the spark that once existed. Yet, that spark was not accidental. It was a reflection of something real, something worthy of your time, attention, and care. Revisiting these reasons allows you to see beyond the challenges and remember the foundation that first made you believe in him. Every relationship begins with a connection, a pull that cannot be fully explained, but is undeniable. The laughter you shared, the conversations that lasted until dawn, the moments of quiet understanding. All of these are evidence of a bond that touched your soul. Even when difficulties arise, these memories are not meaningless. They are reminders of the depth of what exists between you. When you recall why your heart first believed in him, you reestablish a perspective that is not clouded by temporary frustration. You begin to recognize that love is not erased by mistakes or distance, but strengthened by remembering the reasons it first took root. Belief in someone is often tied to the qualities that cannot be measured or explained easily. Perhaps it was his kindness in unexpected moments, his way of seeing the world with sincerity, or the quiet confidence that drew you closer. Maybe it was the way he made you feel safe, understood, or cherished without demanding attention. These qualities are not always obvious in daily life, especially when stress, fear, or fatigue enter the picture. Before giving up, pause to remember the essence of who he is. The parts that first touched your heart and sparked your belief in him. These qualities are often still there, even if hidden beneath the struggles life has placed before him. When challenges arise, it is natural to focus on what is wrong, on what disappoints or frustrates. But love is not only about what frustrates. It is about the entire spectrum of experience, including the joy, the connection, and the understanding that first drew you together. By remembering why your heart believed in him, you allow yourself to see past the temporary shadows of conflict or miscommunication. You gain clarity about whether the reasons you fell for him are still valid and whether your connection still holds the potential for growth, healing, and deeper love. Belief in someone also requires forgiveness and patience. No person is perfect, and every man has flaws, insecurities, and moments of failure. Remembering why your heart believed in him does not mean ignoring these imperfections. It means weighing them against the totality of who he is, against the love that has been shared, and against the potential for positive change. When you allow your memory of his best qualities to balance your perception of his shortcomings, you cultivate a perspective that encourages understanding rather than resentment. This is how patience and empathy are born, and how love finds the strength to endure challenges. The act of remembering is also an act of gratitude. Recognizing the moments when he made you feel valued, loved, and understood creates a mindset that focuses on possibility rather than loss. When you hold on to gratitude for the ways he has touched your life, you strengthen your ability to support him through growth, struggle, and vulnerability. You become a partner who does not simply react to temporary difficulties, but actively chooses to nurture the connection that first made your heart believe in him. Before giving up, reflect on the small, meaningful moments that often go unnoticed. The text that made you smile unexpectedly, the gestures that demonstrated thoughtfulness, the shared dreams or quiet encouragements. These are the subtle truths of a bond that has depth. Love is often built in these quiet, consistent ways, and remembering them can restore perspective when doubts creep in. Your heart believed in him for reasons that matter. Recalling these reasons helps you see that the love you share is not defined solely by challenges, but by the totality of your experiences together. Remembering why your heart believed in him is not about clinging blindly. It is about reconnecting with the truth of your relationship. It is about seeing beyond temporary frustration, recognizing the qualities that first inspired love, and appreciating the depth of the connection you share. Before you give up on a man, pause to remember why you believed, and you may find the courage to stay, the clarity to understand, and the hope to continue building a love that is worth preserving. True strength is staying when leaving feels easier. Before you give up on a man, consider that the easiest path is not always the right one. Walking away can feel like relief, a release from frustration, disappointment, or uncertainty. It may seem simpler to let go, to escape the challenges that love brings, and to avoid the vulnerability that comes with staying. But strength is not measured by how quickly you remove yourself from discomfort. Strength is measured by your willingness to remain and to invest your heart and to face the complexities of love, even when it is difficult, even when it requires courage beyond what you thought you had. Staying requires patience. It requires the ability to hold your heart steady while navigating the ups and downs of someone else's journey. A man may struggle, make mistakes, or falter in ways that test your resolve. It is tempting to interpret these moments as signs to walk away, but true strength lies in choosing to stay while maintaining your boundaries, your self-respect, and your sense of self. This is not about tolerating harm or dismissing your own needs. It is about recognizing that love is often a process that unfolds over time, and that leaving prematurely may prevent the growth and transformation that patience can nurture. Courage is essential when staying feels difficult. It takes bravery to remain when your heart feels uncertain, when communication falters, or when life's pressures threaten to push you apart. Courage is the willingness to trust that the bond you share has meaning, even if it is tested. It is choosing to engage with love thoughtfully, to offer support without losing yourself, and to believe in the possibility of connection, even when the present is challenging. Many relationships are abandoned not because love is absent, but because one partner lacks the courage to stay when facing discomfort. True strength is the ability to confront these challenges rather than avoid them. Staying also requires empathy. Understanding a man's struggles, his fears, and his limitations allows you to approach the relationship with compassion rather than judgment. When you see the challenges he faces, you recognize that his actions are shaped by more than what is visible. Empathy helps you appreciate the effort, even when it is imperfect, and to value the intention behind his actions. By staying, you validate his journey, showing that love can endure beyond mistakes and setbacks. This does not excuse harmful behavior, but it acknowledges that growth often happens slowly, and that commitment to each other can provide the support necessary for transformation. Consistency is another aspect of strength. Remaining steadfast in love demonstrates reliability, a willingness to weather storms together, and a commitment that is not conditional on ease or convenience. A man who sees your consistent presence is more likely to trust, open up, and invest in the relationship himself. Strength in staying fosters mutual growth and deepens connection because it establishes a foundation of trust that cannot exist when one partner frequently wavers at the first sign of difficulty. Your decision to remain can inspire courage in him, showing that love is worth the effort, even when it is complicated. It is important to remember that true strength balances staying with self-respect. Remaining in a relationship does not mean sacrificing your values or ignoring patterns of harm. Strength is not blind endurance. It is thoughtful engagement. It is knowing when to provide support and when to enforce boundaries. By staying with discernment, you protect yourself while also giving the relationship a chance to flourish. Strength is rooted in wisdom, patience, and a clear understanding of what love truly requires. Before giving up on a man, reflect on what it means to be strong. Strength is not measured by impulsive decisions or immediate gratification. It is measured by the courage to face discomfort, the patience to witness growth, the empathy to understand struggles, and the consistency to remain committed when challenges arise. True strength is staying when leaving feels easier, and in that choice lies the potential for a love that is enduring, transformative, and deeply meaningful. Believe in his potential, not just his present flaws. Before you give up on a man, remember that what you see today is not the sum total of who he is or who he can become. Every person carries within them the possibility for growth, change, and transformation, and a man's current struggles, mistakes, or limitations do not define his ultimate capacity for love and commitment. Too often, we allow frustration or disappointment to blind us to the deeper potential that lies beneath the surface. Believing in his potential means choosing to look beyond what is imperfect in this moment and seeing the promise of what could be. When a man falters, it is natural to focus on his mistakes. Words left unsaid, actions misunderstood, or decisions that hurt can weigh heavily on your heart. But these moments, though real and sometimes painful, do not erase the love, intention, or capability that exists within him. Potential is not about perfection. It is about what is possible when patience, understanding, and encouragement meet a heart that is willing to grow. By believing in his potential, you create the space for him to evolve without fear of judgment, and you honor the part of him that is striving to become a better partner, a better man, and a better version of himself for the relationship you share. Believing in potential requires perspective. It asks you to see not only who he is now, but also who he can become when he learns from his experiences, faces his fears, and embraces growth. A man may be imperfect in communication, inconsistent in expression, or slow to show commitment, but these shortcomings do not negate his ability to rise above them. When you focus on potential, you shift your energy from criticism to encouragement, from disappointment to hope. You begin to notice the small efforts he makes, the ways he tries even when he struggles, and the glimpses of the man he is capable of being. Faith in potential also nurtures transformation. People often rise to the expectations placed upon them, and when a man feels that someone believes in his ability to grow, he is more likely to strive toward that vision. Your belief becomes a mirror, reflecting the best version of him and inspiring him to work toward it. This does not mean excusing repeated harm or ignoring your boundaries. It means recognizing that growth is a process, that mistakes are part of the journey, and that love is often a powerful motivator for change when approached with patience and understanding. Understanding potential requires a balance of hope and realism. It is not blind optimism, nor is it tolerating behavior that undermines your worth. It is the ability to separate the present flaws from the underlying promise, to see beyond temporary setbacks, and to invest in the possibility of transformation without losing yourself in the process. Believing in potential is about valuing the trajectory rather than the immediate performance. It allows you to hold space for growth, giving the relationship the time and opportunity to flourish into something deeper and more enduring than what is immediately visible. When you choose to focus on potential, you cultivate empathy, patience, and resilience within yourself. You begin to recognize that love is not only about what exists now, but also about what can develop over time. A man who knows you believe in his potential will feel empowered to confront his fears, address his limitations, and rise to meet the standards of love that you deserve. Your faith in him can become a catalyst for growth, encouraging him to step into the fullness of the man he is capable of being. Before giving up on a man, remind yourself that everyone is a work in progress. The man you see today is not fixed, he is evolving. His actions, words, and behaviors may not yet reflect his full capacity for love, commitment, and understanding. By believing in his potential, you choose to honor the journey rather than abandon it, to see the promise rather than only the flaws, and to invest in what is possible instead of walking away from what could be. Believing in potential does not guarantee perfection, but it opens the door for growth, transformation, and deeper connection. Before you give up, hold on to the vision of what he can become, and you may discover that the love you thought was fragile is capable of becoming unshakable. In the end, choosing to stay, to understand, and to believe in a man is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to your strength, patience, and wisdom. Love is a journey, often complicated, sometimes challenging, yet always worth the effort when approached with empathy, faith, and courage. Before you give up, remember the spark that first drew you to him, the potential that lies beneath the struggles, and the quiet, powerful ways love communicates even when words are absent. By embracing patience, understanding, and belief, you give both him and yourself the chance to grow, to rise, and to experience a love that is deeper, stronger, and truly transformative. Good luck as you navigate the path of love with an open heart, unwavering strength, and a spirit that believes in growth and connection. Thank you for listening and for allowing yourself to see beyond the present into the possibilities that love can hold.